Hello, Amber here, and I have a quick little tutorial today for you for the Aranea collar, and more specifically for the embroidered addition for the collar. This is an optional addition. You could just finish the collar as a knitted item and wear it like that. If you want to have the spiderweb part just pop out that little bit more, use this simple chain stitch embroidery technique to add a bit of extra contrast to the web sections. In this tutorial, I'll demonstrate the chain stitch for both sections, the crossover and the webs, and also show how I'll weave in the ends for mine as well. Before I started the embroidery, I blocked my unembroidered project. I lay it flat and just pulled out the points so that I've got a nice even surface to work with before embroidering. And then after I embroidered, I just gave it a little light steam iron. I could block it again. It would probably be nice too, so that that yarn can kind of bloom. But for now, I've just given it a little light steam. I knit a couple of prototypes when I was creating this design. So I used one of my prototypes to play with a little bit and see which yarn I might like to use for the embroidered section. I started out with a fingering weight single ply yarn in a solid lilac colour, which I think looks really dreamy and sweet. And then I tried, this is the mohair yarn, the kid silk mohair that I used for the actual project. And because it's a lace weight, I held it as a double thread and had to go with that, which looks, it's a bit more subtle. It's a nice effect, but I didn't quite like the texture of those stitches. And then I tried this yarn, also a single ply fingering weight yarn that has a gorgeous little holographic rainbow pattern, which clearly I love because I chose that. I loved the idea that it kind of looks like a rainbow on a dewy spiderweb in the morning, sparkling in the sunlight. So that's what I chose. I also tried a metallic embroidery thread, a thread that you generally use for embroidery. And I held 2 strands of that for just a subtle shimmer effect, which hopefully I can capture in this. I'm not quite seeing it on the screen, but I can see it in front of me. And that's a much more subtle effect. I really quite like that effect too. I thought I would go with that until I sampled the other yarns as well. And then finally I tried just using the similar colour to the kid silk, and again in a fingering weight single ply yarn. So it's just a solid, almost white colour. So they were my little experiments to see what I wanted to do. I also thought about adding beads either with the embroidery or just as you knit. It could be nice to add a few beads to add that little twinkle as well, like the dew drops. This is the tutorial for the embroidery option for the Aranea cowl. So I've cut myself a length of fingering weight yarn and I'll thread the needle through. It's going to be a balance between having it long enough, not too long. So I'll hold it double initially for that length, but we'll just be using this single strand part of the end. And what I'm going to do is, let's zoom in. So we have nice handy lines here to work towards. And this particular section, the central double decrease, is quite easy because you're inserting into those stitches. So I'll start here, insert the needle in, pull the yarn through, and I'm just going to hold that tail rather than have a knot or anything. And I'll weave that in later. So I form a loop with my thumb and then come back in through that same hole that I just started, and then bring the needle up to the next loop formed by the central double decrease stitch, and pull the needle, leaving that loop underneath through, forming the first chain of our chain stitch, and continue this same process. So I bring the needle through the loop that we've just worked up to the next central decrease loop, having the yarn sitting behind, and pull through. And that's 2 of our little chains. And I'll continue this process so inserting the needle through the loop just worked, up through the central decrease loop, making sure it's over the yarn to form a loop and trap it, and pull that through. So I've worked my way up and revealed a delightful little patch of that colour, which is quite fun, and finish up at the top end here. Bring the yarn up through, pulling that tail. And then I'm just going to come down over that loop there to secure that, and through to the other side. And I'll cut that yarn there. And I can either weave in all the ends later, since I've got some yarn on my needle, or as I go I can weave in the ends. Just like this. Pull that through, come back up for a few stitches to secure it. And then I can trim that. It's nice and neat. And that's how it looks on the right side. And I can do the same with the tail there. Okay, so I've worked up all of these sections all the way around, including the front side, and have started to work these sections here. And I thought I'd stop along the way and show you how I'm working these. So it's the same stitch. And I'm just pushing the needle through as usual, and then bringing it up. So there's this garter ridge, and the stitch goes this way and then this way. I'm bringing the needle up under that stitch each time. So I'm using that as my guide. So bring the loop around, needle through and up under the stitch that is my guide here, and through. Repeat that. To where there's the crossover, and I just bring the yarn under and then through the next side. So I'm allowing this line to cross over and this to go under. And continue along, using that as my guide. I hope you enjoy your project and the unique touch that you add to your Aranea collar.